Hello, hello. Welcome to Ask a Garden Coach. I'm here to grow gardeners. You have questions. I want to give you answers. So let's get into it. In today's episode, I want to give you guys the tools necessary to diagnose your sick houseplants. A lot of gardeners during the winter months, this is how we, scratch our gardening itch, if you will, by having our indoor plants. I am someone who honestly, my indoor plants get a little neglected during the summertime. So the wintertime becomes a triage of trying to bring them back into their glorious state. And so I wanted to share that with you. And it also came about because I had a question come in from Ganjana, and she says, I have 2 mangoes I grew from seed. BT the dub. That's impressive to me. Good job. Anyway, I grew from seed that are not looking too well. One has brown fringes and the other has some curling. And she was talking about the leaves, and here are the pictures. Ta-da! Because I have no warm place for them, I asked a friend to plant sit them. She waters them once a week. No fertilizer has been added ever. What can we do to save them as a houseplant? All right, so in this episode, we're going to talk about a few things. One, I want you to start thinking about what a plant needs. So we'll talk about healthy plant needs. We're going to talk about job descriptions for house plants. And then we're going to take a step back and look at her question and think about a mango tree and see if we can come up with some steps. I'll share my advice that I shared with her. And then I want to show you on one of my plants, this lovely one right here, how to give it a checkup, investigate, see if there's any problems. So with that, what does a healthy plant need? This is a healthy plant. Doesn't matter if it grows in your bathroom or in your vegetable garden. Healthy plants need basically the same things. They need light. They need temperature range of some kind. They need humidity and water, airflow, and then they need some nutrients in the soil. Now, the house plant is a special category of plant because we ask a lot out of these plants. Most houseplants, what do they need? If we gave them a job description, what would that job description be? It would be 1, you're not going to get much light. 2, it's going to be warm all the time. You're not going to get cool off in the night and warmer in the day. Nope, it's going to be all the same all day long. 3, it needs to be drought tolerant, or it has to be humidity tolerant, like saturation on the extremes, not really kind of in the middle. Houseplants also need to be able to handle less air movement. And finally, they need to be slow growing because we don't want them to put on a foot of growth every year and spread every year. No, we want them to kind of just creep along at their own pace. And that slow growth means they don't need to be potted up. They don't need a lot of nutrients, and their maintenance is going to be a lot less. Okay, so quick recap. Typical houseplant needs low light, warm, consistent temperatures, drought tolerant or tropical tolerant, lots of water, less air movement, and slow growing, also low nutrient needs. That's a typical houseplant. When we overwinter plants or we try to bring plants inside that don't fit that criteria, we start to run into some problems. So let's talk about mango trees and how we could convert them into a houseplant. Mango are tropical and they are from India originally. So in and of itself, that sounds good. They're tropical. So tropical plants, the daytime and nighttime temperature is not very varied. So they work well as houseplants. So far, so good. They like full sun. That's a challenge when you're talking about a houseplant, especially a house in the Pacific Northwest. Yes, I have our window closed behind us, but our house is dark. I personally would have a really hard time giving 8 hours of direct sunlight to a mango tree. 8 hours. So the best place for a mango would be in your south window. This is south in my house. There's a garage right there. I have no south windows, so there won't be any mango in this house. So you need full sun. But even that, the best thing is when it warms up to put that tree outside, and it should live outside as much of the year as possible, only overwintering inside. Let's see, what else does mango need? It needs temperatures above 70 degrees. It can get down to 50, but it's really going to suffer. And if it gets down into 40, you're going to be lights out for that plant. Mango want high humidity. They want more water when they're actively growing. So like when they're fruiting and flowering, they need more water than when they are not. There's a little bit of a dormancy period. And they need good airflow. Airflow. They need good airflow. So not too dry, not too wet. One thing with vents in your house, like you have heat returns, that air that comes out can be hot, can be really dry, and can actually wreak havoc on leaves of plants because it'll transpire all of the moisture off of the plants, and you'll have plants that will die. Hold on. Is it transpiration? Transpiration. The exhalation of water vapor through the stomata. Yes, it is transpiration. I am correct. Transpiration. $5 word? $5 word? $5 word.
Sure.
Transpiration. The evaporation of moisture through the stomata, which is the little holes in the leaves. Yeah. So now that we know what mangoes need and we know what houseplants generally need, we can see how there's a little bit of a disconnect there and how mango might be difficult to grow in a Pacific Northwest interior home in the middle of winter. And it's not surprising to run into challenges. When you have issues with light, heat, humidity, water, all of those things, it weakens the plant. And that's when plants become susceptible to fungus and to bacteria and disease and other issues. Looking at her pictures, it's hard to tell if that's what's going on. So this is what I told her. This is my recommendation for her mango tree. I told her it needs more light, give it as much light as possible. I said the temperature, gave her a reminding of that, reminded her to make sure there are no drafts near the trees. And improper watering is likely to be one of the biggest culprits. If her plants are being watered once a week, but they're not being checked if they need water once a week, they could be overwatered. Or it could also be that the soil might have become hydrophobic, which is a state of the soil can't hold. It actually repels the water. And you can tell soil is hydrophobic because you'll pour the water onto the surface and it'll just kind of pool on the surface. Or you'll pour water through your houseplants and it'll just drain straight through instead of actually soaking in and maybe a few seconds later, then it'll start to drain out the bottom. If it goes immediately through it, you know your soil has become hydrophobic and you need to bottom water it and let it soak in that water for a while to rehydrate, and then you'll be back in business. What else? With the watering, another way you can tell if your plant needs water is to go into the top and feel down about an inch. And if it is still moist an inch down, you know you don't need to water. I watered this one yesterday. I know this one is fine. And actually, I have this begonia here. It's beautiful. I love it. I got it as a cutting from a neighbor, and I just keep multiplying it. But I noticed one of the cuttings was not looking so good, and I pulled it out, and here's why. I actually was overwatering this, and so I have root rot here at the bottom. There's two little roots on this one, but you can see the leaves are really, really papery thin, whereas these leaves are really thick and supple. These ones are flimsy. There's some damage to the leaves. I don't know if an insect got in here, but this is not looking so good. Now, I will say with begonia, I could cut these off and possibly try rooting this again, but that's not really necessary. So here's an example of root rot from overwatering. I do it too. I think a lot of houseplants get killed because they're loved too much instead of neglected. It's usually one of the extremes. I'm an overwaterer. Let's see, what else? It could be that the plant is outgrowing the pot. So like I said, houseplants need to be slow growing. Well, it's a mango tree. Mango trees are not little trees that grow really slowly. It could be that the plant is getting too big for its britches and wants a bigger home. So when plants in pots outgrow their pot, the roots will come out to the outside. And if there's no more room to grow, they'll start circling around the outside. And that's what's called, we call that being root bound. And when roots start to circle, and they'll grow and keep circling, unless they're trained outward again, they will continue to circle. That's why it's told when you buy any plant, you take off the pot, you tease the roots and you loosen them so that they're not circling. And I have a video here with a little demonstration of my pothos plant, and I took that out and you can see that the roots are circling on that one. So if you have a house plant and you're like, what do? I wanted to show you guys in real time one of my houseplant diagnoses. So I'm going to clear my space and reset. Be right back. Today I'm going to demonstrate how I diagnose my houseplant problems. I mean, this one's fine, but I figured it'd be fun to take a look at the root structure of this mother-in-law's tongue snake plant, sansevieria, to see what's going on below the soil. And I wanted to point out first, one of the things that you can do for your houseplants, it's actually going to help them a lot, dust them. There's a lot of stagnant air inside of the house, and dust can collect on these leaves. And when it does, that is affecting, I mean, look at all this dust. Look at all that. Ew. I'm a bad houseplant mom. I'm sorry. That can affect the photosynthesis of the plant inside your house. So dusting your plants is part of plant care. Okay, so if we're gonna take this plant out, first we gotta remove some of my mulching material that I have on top because I just don't really want that mixed in the bottom. I bought this probably about 5 years ago, and I have put it into one pot. I've moved it up in size once, I think, since I bought it. And it was one plant. I think this was the original plant here, and then the other two plants were pups or offshoots from the original plant. Okay, so get this cleaned off. I could put my gloves on. Nah. Okay. Be brave. You can do it. So very carefully. Oh, I can feel roots letting go. You can see. That's it. Well, I expected more. Now, as I said, this is the first time I've pulled this out, so I'm not sure what the sansevieria root systems should look like, but this tells me perhaps I'm overwatering this one as well because the soil here is quite moist. All right, looking at my mother-in-law, or snake plant, you can see that this right here was where this pup grew off of the main plant. There's a little calloused spot right here, and it does have roots and it is growing, and from above the soil, it's always looked quite happy. Earwig. Yeah, we have lots of those in the Pacific Northwest that I deal with all the time. So yeah, this is telling me I probably need to water this less. I could possibly even move down in pot size just for the time being. So for me, what I would do at this point is I would take all of the soil out, get brand new potting mix, put it in here, and then repot the plants. So I'm going to go dump this out, go get fresh potting soil, and we will be right back. And we're back. All right, so I have refreshed my potting mix. I have them in here, and now I will just replant my plants. I want to nestle them in. I have pre-moistened this soil. So we have that. Get them in there nice and cozy, and then firm them down around the outside. If you hang out with me enough in the garden, you might find out that I'm not the tidiest of gardeners. Sorry about that. All right, so I will clean this up, and this will be a happy house plant. I will watch it. I'm going to water it in just to help the roots settle. But then this plant should be fine. And in a year or two, pending things go well, and I have no signs of disease or rot going on anymore, I might pot it up again or divide these into different pots. Today, I like the fullness of this pot, and the root systems being as small as they are, houseplants tend to like to be cozy. So I thought all three of them can go back right where they were. So that's what I have today for Ask a Garden Coach. Let's recap really quick. Houseplants, look for good light, good drainage, good airflow, good temperature, and steady moisture. Those are the 5 things you need for your houseplants to thrive. If you have more specific issues or questions about your houseplants, leave them in the comments below and I will answer them and try to help you, because my goal is to grow gardeners. That's what I want to do. I am also a garden coach, and if you have specific questions and really need the help, you can reach out through my website and we can talk about setting you up with some actual garden coaching to help you specifically with all of your problems that are getting in the way. So thank you so much for watching this episode. Again, I'm Carolyn May, your garden coach. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next Tuesday for another episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.